There is a version of you that you have never met. It lives beneath everything you present to the world, beneath your kindness, your composure, your carefully constructed identity. It holds everything you were taught to suppress, every impulse you buried, every desire you were told was wrong, every part of yourself that didn't fit the person you were trying to become. Carl Jung called it the shadow, and he said something about it that most people are not prepared to hear. He said, "The shadow is not the enemy. It is the most honest thing about you." In 1913, Carl Jung was 38 years old and at the height of his career. He had studied under Sigmund Freud. He had published groundbreaking work on the unconscious mind. He was considered one of the most brilliant psychiatrists in the world. And then everything collapsed. His friendship with Freud ended in a bitter intellectual rupture. His sense of identity, built entirely on his role as Freud's successor, dissolved overnight. And what followed was something Jung himself described as a confrontation with the unconscious, so intense, so disorienting, so terrifying, that he genuinely did not know whether he was breaking down or breaking through. He began having visions. He heard voices. He saw figures that spoke to him from somewhere he could not name. He recorded everything in a journal that he called the Red Book, a document so personal, so disturbing, that he kept it locked away from the public for over 50 years. What Jung was experiencing was not madness. It was his first direct encounter with his own shadow, and it changed everything he would ever think about the human mind. To understand the shadow, you have to first understand what Jung meant by the persona. The persona is the mask you wear in public, the version of yourself you show to the world. It is not false. It is simply curated. It reflects the parts of you that your environment rewarded and the parts of your culture deemed acceptable. From childhood, you learned which emotions were safe to express and which were not. Anger, perhaps, was dangerous. Neediness was embarrassing. Ambition was selfish. Sexuality was shameful. Whatever the specific lessons were, and they were different for each person, the result was the same. You took those unacceptable parts and pushed them down. You did not destroy them. Nothing in the psyche is ever destroyed. You simply moved them somewhere you thought you would not have to look. That place is the shadow. Jung described it as the sum of all personal and collective elements which, because of their incompatibility with the chosen conscious attitude, are denied expression in life. In simpler terms, the shadow is everything you are that you have decided you are not. And here is what makes it dangerous. Just because you refuse to look at something does not mean it stops operating. The shadow does not disappear when you ignore it. It grows. It organizes itself in the dark. And it finds ways to express itself that you do not recognize as coming from you at all. This is the mechanism Jung called projection. Projection is the shadow's primary weapon. When you cannot tolerate something inside yourself, you locate it in someone else. The man who cannot acknowledge his own aggression becomes obsessed with the violence of others. The woman who has suppressed her ambition finds herself deeply threatened by ambitious women. The person who has buried their own dishonesty cannot stop noticing everyone else's lies. Whatever you cannot accept in yourself, you will find endlessly irritating, threatening, or morally reprehensible in the people around you. Jung was precise about this. He said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Think about the last time someone made you irrationally angry, not mildly annoyed, genuinely, disproportionately furious. The reaction that felt bigger than the situation warranted. That excess, that surplus of feeling, is almost always a signal. Something in what you witnessed, touched, something in you that you have refused to acknowledge. The shadow was recognized, and it did not want to be. This is where intelligent people encounter a specific problem. The more self-aware you become, the more you attempt to monitor your own behavior, to correct your biases, to become a better version of yourself, the more sophisticated your shadow becomes in hiding from that awareness. Jung called this the greatest moral achievement possible, and also the most dangerous, because the person who believes they have no shadow is the most dangerous person in any room. History agrees. The worst atrocities were not committed by people who knew they were evil. They were committed by people who were completely convinced of their own righteousness, who had constructed such an impenetrable moral persona that their capacity for destruction operated entirely beneath their awareness, in the shadow, untouched, unexamined, and therefore unlimited. This is not a historical observation. It is a daily one. A colleague who prides themselves on their fairness but consistently undermines those beneath them. The parent who believes they are sacrificing everything for their children but is actually satisfying a need for control. The activist whose righteous anger at injustice in the world is inseparable from a rage they cannot acknowledge inside themselves. None of them believe they are operating from the shadow. That is precisely how the shadow works. Jung's answer to the shadow was not elimination. He was absolutely clear on this. You cannot destroy the shadow. You cannot meditate it away. You cannot think your way out of it. Attempting to do so only drives it deeper underground, where it grows more powerful and more autonomous. The answer was integration. Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong work of becoming a whole person by acknowledging and incorporating every part of yourself, including the parts you most despise. He described it as the most important psychological task a human being faces, and he was honest about the cost. Integration is not comfortable. It requires you to sit with parts of yourself that you have spent years running from, to acknowledge that the anger you condemn in others lives inside you, that the greed you despise is something you understand from the inside, that the darkness you find so reprehensible in the world is not foreign to you at all. Jung called this the meeting with the shadow, and he said it was the apprentice piece of the individuation process, not the end, not the achievement, the beginning. So how do you actually do this? Not in therapy, not abstractly. How do you begin the real work of meeting your shadow in ordinary life? The first method is what Jung called active imagination. You sit with the parts of yourself you find most uncomfortable, and you allow them to speak. You do not analyze them immediately. You do not judge them. You simply create conditions in which they can surface, through writing, through art, through sustained internal attention, and you listen. This sounds simple. It is one of the hardest things a human being can do, because the shadow does not speak politely. It does not arrive with context or justification. It arrives as impulse, as image, as visceral feeling, and the instinct, trained by years of suppression, is to shut it down immediately. Resist that instinct. The second method is to take your projections seriously. When you notice an irrational reaction to someone else, a disproportionate judgment, an excessive irritation, an inexplicable contempt, treat it as information rather than as a verdict. Ask not what is wrong with them. Ask what this is showing you about yourself. The third method is the most difficult. Stop performing goodness. Every time you choose the comfortable, acceptable, socially approved version of yourself over the true one, every time you say what you do not mean, suppress what you actually feel, or present a version of yourself that you know is curated, you add another layer to the shadow. The shadow grows in the gap between who you are and who you perform yourself to be. The only way to stop that growth is to begin, carefully and honestly, to close that gap. Jung spent the last decades of his life returning to this one idea in different forms. In his final interview, recorded the year before his death, he was asked what he believed was the most urgent psychological task facing humanity. He did not hesitate. He said the most dangerous thing of all is to become unconscious of the evil in oneself and to project it onto the world. He was not speaking about monsters. He was speaking about ordinary people, people who have never examined what lives in their shadow, people who have decided without investigation that the darkness in the world belongs entirely to others. The shadow does not ask your permission to operate. It does not wait for you to acknowledge it before it shapes your decisions, your relationships, your perceptions of other people, your understanding of yourself. It is already working. The only question is whether you are working with it or being worked by it. If this video gave you something to sit with, that is enough for now. Don't rush to resolve it. The shadow does not respond to urgency. Next week, we examine the mind that cannot be wrong, the psychology of the God complex, why certain people become genuinely incapable of acknowledging their own fallibility, and what it costs everyone around them. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The Obsidian Mind.